Hey loves, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'll be making an updated video of the basic bodice pattern. I already have one on my channel, but a lot of you find that quite challenging. That's why I'm bringing to you this easy version. I'll be using this method of drafting a lot in my upcoming videos, so make sure to watch this to the end. And on that note, let's get started. I will start with the front pattern, and on the top here I have my starting line, which will serve as the shoulder line, and from this line I'll be plotting in my shoulder to bust measurement, and for me it's 10, and then my shoulder to waist measurement, which is 17, and shoulder to hip measurement 25 for me. So you have to measure your own self and see how much yours is. So I'll be putting in the same measurement on this other side and then connect the dots to form straight lines. And I'll be going in with my marker later to emphasize the lines, and I like to use pencil now because it's easier to erase when I make mistakes. So on this shoulder line I'll measure half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7, and then I forgot to label this line, so I will do that. So this is the bust line, the line after the shoulder line, and then the other one is the waist line, and then the last line will be the hip line. So now on the shoulder line I'll come down 1 inch from the 7 inches mark, and then mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, and then connect the 1 inch drop to the neck width like that. From the new shoulder line I'll be marking my armhole depth, which is the bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. From the center front I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7, and then connect the lines like this from the shoulder to the armhole depth mark, and then a horizontal line like this. So this new horizontal line is going to be the chest line or upper bust line. And then what I'm going to do now is to divide the armhole depth line in two. So half of that, and then on that mark I'll be going in 1 inch, and then draw in the armhole curve. And then what I'm going to do now is to come down 3 inches for the neck width, neck depth. So that is the basic neck measurement, 3 inches as the neck width and 3 inches as the neck depth, and then draw in your curve. So what I'm going to do now is to plot in the nipple to nipple measurement. So mine is 8 inches divided by 2, that gave me 4, and I put the measurement on these lines, and then I'll connect them into a straight vertical line, and on this line I'll be putting in the dots. So on the waistline I would mark ½ inch on both sides like this, and then from the bust line I will come down 1.5 inches, and then from the waist down to the hip line I'll measure 3.5 inches for the dart length. So you can do 4 inches or 4.5 inches depending on your body type. So from there I will connect the dots like this to form my dart on the front bodice pattern. So now I'll be putting in my horizontal measurement. So on the chest line I'll be putting quarter of my bust measurement, and then on the waist I'll be putting in quarter of my waist measurement plus the dart allowance there, which is 1 inch, and then on the hip line I'll be putting in quarter of my hip measurement, and then I'll connect the dots, so from the chest line to the waist with a straight line, and then from the waist to the hip with a slight curve. So this is what I have at the moment, and you can add allowance to this pattern if you want. You can also leave it out and then add allowance later on if you're going to use it. So I'm going to demonstrate here if you want to add a bust that. I'm not going to put it on this pattern, but just in case you want to know how to make it. So I divide the measurement from the chest line to the waist in half, and then make a line to the bust point. So now on the side, I would go in half inch on one side and out half inch on the other side, and then from the bust point I will go down 1.5 inches and draw the lines like this. So now that we have that on the side, the pattern will be reduced 1 inch. If we have to join it to the back side. So on the hip line you come down 1 inch, then join it like a slant line to the hip line, so that after you holding the dart there would be no shortage. I don't know if you understand it, but yeah, but this is not what I'm going for this pattern. I was just demonstrating, just if someone wanted to do that. So now I have everything and I'll be going in with my marker. So with this pattern you can shorten it or lengthen it depending on the style you are making. So this is basically the front basic bodice pattern. So I'm just going in with my marker so that you see clearly how it really looks like. So this is it for the front pattern, and let's move on to the back pattern. For the back pattern, I went ahead and plot in some measurement because this is the same procedure as starting with the front, so I didn't want to repeat it. So what I did was to put in the shoulder line and then the shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, and shoulder to hip. And I also put in 1 inch zip extension like you see there, and then I already did the armhole depth just like the front, and then the shoulder drop. So this is it. So go ahead and make it onto this point, because from the back I'll be starting with you from the back neck depth. So go ahead and plot in all these measurements for the back. So for the neck depth I went in 1 inch like you see and connected it to the 3 inches neck width. So just like the front, also I divided the armhole depth in half like this, but then this time I didn't go in 1 inch, and then from the middle I just connected it with a curve to the chest line like this. So now I'm going to put in the nipple to nipple measurement, half of it, which is 4, like just like what I did for the front, and then connect the dot to form a line. So on this line we're going to put in the back dart measurement. So now I'll be labeling the lines because I forgot to do that. So this line is the chest line, then the bust line, the waist line, and then the hip line. So now I'm going to put in the dart measurements, and then on the waist, just like the front, I went in ½ inch on both sides and then connected it to the bust point like that. And this time I didn't come down on the bust line. From the waist downwards, I marked 4 inches for the skirt dart. Always remember that the skirt dart at the back is longer than the front side. So what I'm going to do now is to put in the horizontal measurements just like we did for the front. So quarter of my bust measurement and then mark it on the chest line, and then quarter of my waist plus the 1 inch dart interval, and then my hip measurement divided by 4. And then I will connect these lines. So from the chest line to waistline with a straight line, and then from the waistline with a curve to the hip line. So this is basically it for the back pattern, just that the back pattern has a zip extension. So now to remove that bulginess from the back, I went in about ½ an inch on the waistline and then joined it to the chest line and hip line like you see, and then I went in also half and then connected the lines like this. So this will remove any bulginess from the back if you fix in a zip. So if you don't do this, you see that there is kind of like a curve on the back when you fix in your zip. So now what I'm going to do is to just go in with my marker to emphasize all the lines. And with a zip extension, it's up to you to measure how many inches you want. Some people put in 1.5 inch, others put in 2 inches. So I just did 1 inch. So now the main difference between the front and back pattern is that the neckline for the back pattern is higher than the front pattern, and then the armhole for the front pattern is much deeper than the back pattern, because remember when we divide the armhole depth by 2 on the front, we go in 1 inch to make it deeper. And then another difference is that the dart for the back pattern is longer than the one on the front pattern. So now you can see the difference if I put the front pattern on the back pattern, and also with the back pattern it has zip extension. So now you see the difference, that on the front pattern the armhole is really deep, and then the neckline is also really deep. This is the end of today's video, and if you have any questions you can ask in the comments section. And until then, see you in my next video. Don't forget to like, comment and share. Have a nice weekend. Bye.